We're going back to basics because food is expensive, and that does not seem to be changing anytime soon. When I was a kid, my mom cooked all the meals, and if I was visiting my grandmother, her food was also cooked by her. There was very rarely a time when she'd use something processed, unless it was called for in a new recipe she was trying. Because of this, you could imagine the longing I have felt for the majority of my young life when I couldn't have certain foods. Having a Lunchable was a treat. Somewhere on here, I have a kid cuisine video where I revisit something that I got maybe once every few months. Packaged food just wasn't how we did things. From the mac and cheese being from scratch, from the tortillas being from scratch. Occasionally, I remember my mom using one of those Alfredo mixes from Knorr, or maybe some dehydrated vegetable soup mix. But aside from that, the only processed foods I had was at lunchtime at school, which if I can recall, outside of the amazing peanut butter and jelly Grandwich, everything was actually real food, which again set the trend for me wanting the lunches that the other kids at my tables had. Back then, I didn't realize how important it was to eat the food that we had at home. It was kind of a downer, and you do always want that Happy Meal. When I moved to Texas, I was in high school, and we would walk to Sonic or Bill Miller, and I worked at Little Caesars. Those were the food groups that I chose to eat. Oh, and let's not forget the copious amounts of tacos. But at home, we always still had really good food. I'd spend my money here and there going out to eat with friends, and I had fun. And I enjoyed it. Now, as time has gone on, of course, my life has changed. When I started dating people, I would go out to restaurants. In the early aughts of marriage, we were still going out pretty heavily. But as time went on, we began to eat at home. And when my husband lost his job when I was pregnant, we again had no choice. There's something to be said about that longing that you feel, be it a scarcity mindset or just feeling broke because you can't go out to a fancy meal or even Chipotle. But then again, as time went on, we learned how to save our money. My husband got a job and I was a stay-at-home mom. We lived really meagerly. And I've always said that I would rather be at home with my kids and be poor than have somebody else raising them and me not really be able to have any kind of influence in their life and not bring enough money home to make it worth it. Through the years, as we had babies, things became harder. While I didn't know back then that my mental health was taking a nosedive, I did recognize the amount of stress I was under because we went from 1 kid to 3 kids in a very short amount of time. And I grew up an only child. The best part of me being able to stay home was that I was able to teach the kids how to cook. And through the pandemic, we made a very conscious effort to not go out to eat for fear of illness. But let me tell you, the moment those doors open, so did the floodgates. And it seems we lost our way a little bit. My kids absolutely prefer McDonald's or Taco Bell or Chick-fil-A to 90% of the meals that I make. And while my oldest is down to eat most of anything, the littles will require a lot more grace. If you're feeling overwhelmed because your kids are addicted to fast food, just know that you're not alone. And while I might be making 2 meals today to appease the kids and help them make good choices, that's the entire basis of this series. My goal is to show you and my kids how to eat better with what you have on hand, because I want to be mindful, especially as the budget gets tighter. But I also want to be realistic, because we can really only do what we can. So go dig through your freezer and buy yourself a family pack of chicken thighs. We have meals to make.